Behold, we had this picture together with some other people. So our friendship dates back to 2021 or 2016, depending on how you do the accounting. But either way, it's been a good friendship. As far as Yona, I never had the privilege to meet Yona, of course, but I was very much taken by his story. Micha first presented this presentation back in January for a group of close friends. There was about 70 of us there in a private home. And I just remember thinking that this is a story that should be told and shared as widely as possible. Every loss on October 7th, every loss since October 7th is a tragedy unto itself, a world unto itself, and each has its own circumstances, its own dynamic, if you will, and one certainly doesn't compare tragedies. But I just felt in watching the presentation, irrespective of my friendship with Micha, that there were things that were truly unique about Yona's story and that I felt very strongly needed to be shared, like I said, as widely as possible. So that became a labor of love, and Micha and I worked to bring these community events, and this is the third of 3, so we culminate tonight. It's rained or snowed on each of the 3, so I don't know what that means, but I'm really glad that you all braved the weather and are here tonight. And I think you'll come away feeling about Yona and his story and the Israeli people generally a certain strength by being here and hearing this story. And I think it's something we can all carry with us and hopefully share with others. Micha's story, both in life and in death, was one of heroism and inspiration, and I hope you'll experience that tonight. So with that, I want to introduce my good friend, Micha Brief.
Wow, such a pretty sanctuary. Again, still amazed by this place. Really special. So thank you for everyone who came tonight, took out time from their day, and came in to hear and listen me tell the story about Yona. We always said that Yona, when he gets out of the hospital, you're going to tell your story. So we didn't want to tell it, but now Yona's not with us. Our family kind of like took upon that we're going to tell Yona's story. So a short introduction about myself, about Noah, my wife. She's doing the clicking tonight. So we moved to Skokie 3.5 years ago. Hillel Torah school in Skokie brought us here so that Noah can teach Hebrew at the school there. She's a shlicha. We came with 3 of our daughters, Ella, which is 7, Giffen is 4.5, and Neta is 2. We came here, we want to experience a little bit about the States, and just be part of this community. I'm happy no one mentioned it until now, but my Zaidi, some of you know Rabbi Neil Brief, that was my Zaidi. So there's a deeper connection here to Chicago. So the reason we came here, we wanted to be here, and just I wanted to mention my Zaidi tonight as well. All right, so as part of an introduction, my parents made Aliyah when I was 2 years old. My dad grew up here in Chicago, my mom in California. I was born in Boston, and my parents made Aliyah when I was 2 years old from Palo Alto, California. And since the past few years we were here, I always asked them, like, how did you make Aliyah? How did you leave the U.S.? Like, you were in Palo Alto, the weather's great there, you had a house, like how crazy can you be? And they always answered with one word. It's tzionut, the love of the country, love of Israel, and them wanting to be in Israel and to raise us in Israel. And for that, we're very grateful for them about that. So just as a few pictures of us, kind of like the early days of Aliyah, me and my siblings. So we're 6 siblings. I have a sister older than me, and then myself, and then 2 sisters, and then a brother, and then Yona. So a total of 6. of that. As we were growing up, we were always educated to love the country and explore the country and just be part of it. And this is a few pictures of Yona just having fun in Eretz Israel and just enjoying his hiking time and just being there. And that's what we love to do. We did trips in Israel, hiking, water springs. Yona would never say no to an opportunity to go to a water spring or to jump into a maayan or to do a hike. So here are just a few pictures of Yona with his friends having a good time in just nature and just being outside and and just enjoying his time. Yeah. So the first injury, we call it the first injury in May. So in May, the end of May, they went into, Yona was in a Duvdevan unit, which is a commando unit that specializes in arrests of terrorists in Judea and Samaria, and Shomron. They went into a city called Tulkarem to arrest the terrorist. And while they're attempting to arrest the terrorist, there was a pipe bomb thrown at Yona, which exploded behind him and caused him to fly in the air a few feet. And he had severe cuts and injuries on his back thighs. He was then rushed to the hospital, Beilinson Hospital in Petah Tikva. And then he had like an operation, took out a little chaparral from his thighs. And he was able, I spoke to him right after it happened. He was totally fine. He was smiling and just like sharing some funny stories from what happened. It was just a couple hours before. So here is a short video 2 days after the injury of him walking in the hospital. Yeah, always being the little kid, little baby in the house. He had special treatment from my mom. So on the right side, Yona received from his squad, he received a trophy. His squad thought it would be a funny joke that they'll take a piece of the chaparral from that pipe bomb that exploded, and on the trophy it says in Hebrew, first place in long jump. And that's because after it exploded, he flew a few meters in the air, and they thought it was something nice to give him. So it's one of Yona's souvenirs he had from his injuries. He was released from the hospital, and he started doing physical therapy. And then at a certain point, he was like, I can do this on my own. So he started doing physical therapy on his own, and then he came out. He did it in the morning, then he had a lot of spare time. And Yona didn't like to waste his time. He was always busy. If he was studying, running, working out, and because he had so much time, all of his friends were in the army and busy, and he couldn't physically do everything yet. So he had to he found new hobbies, and one of them was making beer. So he started making beer at home. I also make beer, so I was part of the process. It was also fun for me to be while he was making it, to explain to him and do it together with him, even though I was from far away. So this is like one of the hobbies that he started doing when he had spare time. The left picture is a picture of him just at a water spring, and you can see having some coffee, and you still can see his bandages on his legs from the injury, but that didn't keep him from doing the things he loved. So he still went on hikes, he still went into the water springs. He was careful with the injuries, but he just continued his life the way he wanted it to be, even though he had some setbacks there. So Yona went back. He had to make a decision if to go back to the army because his injury, he was like some physical situation there. He needed to decide if to go back, and he really thought about it. And he decided, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to the army and finish with the squad. Is his service. He was supposed to be discharged in December of 2023. So 2 weeks before October 7th, he went back. He did a few operations with his squad, and they kept him just, kind of like ease him into action a little bit. So he was the outskirts of the operation. Him being a medic, he was more of just like being backup in case something happens, so he can go in and provide some medical support. So October 7th, my parents decided that it's a good enough time for them to leave Yona at the base and come here for a visit. So my parents, they came to visit us and be with us on Simchat Torah in Skokie together with us. It turns out also my grandfather, my Zaidi, he fell in the hospital a few days before that, and he was in the hospital during their time here. So that's just a disclaimer, has some significant meaning in down the line. So Yona, his team wakes up at 7:30 in the morning. Their base is in Ma'ale Adumim, just a little west of Jerusalem. They wake up from a phone call from one of his friend's father who lives in Kfar Aza, saying, "Come here right now. There are terrorists in the kibbutz. We need you guys." So they got ready without even an official command from higher up to go down to Kfar Aza. They got themselves ready to go down to Kfar Aza, and within a few minutes they were on their way. They had one of Yona's commanders decided to go with armed vehicles, even though it's a slower drive, but that decision saved a lot of lives, and Yona's in particular. So around 10:30, they get to Kfar Aza, and you can see this is an aerial view of Kfar Aza, and where the red line starts is the entrance to Kfar Aza. So they gathered their troops. Around 3 or 4 armed vehicles were there, and in addition to that, there was a vehicle of Sayeret Matkal, which is the highest commando unit in the Israel, in the IDF, and they came to Kfar Aza as well, and they decided where the red line turns left, they decided to continue straight, and they were terribly ambushed right there, and 4 out of 6 soldiers were killed there. So the decision-making left was a very critical decision. They didn't know at the time, but they got off at the end of the red line, and until Yona was injured, he was in four houses in Kfar Aza. So they got off at house number 1. There were a few injured civilians in that house. So him being a medic, he went in, took care of those civilians, put bandages on, and just gave them initial medical attention in the house. And right then, his commander got a phone call from someone who knows someone that there is a Shabak personnel at the edge of house number 4. You can see on in the picture there. And he was shot in his chest, and he needs to be evacuated immediately because they can't have that Shabak personnel being captured. He knows a lot of secrets about Aza, about whatever. So they couldn't allow it. So they did whatever they needed to do, whatever they need to do in order to get to house number 4. So they started to go between the houses. They went into house number 2. There was nobody home there. They were luckily in a trip in Europe, but terrorists were obviously in the house. It was all like ruined, and and a total mess. And then they went into house number 3. There was a family there, so they also gave them like first medical attention to then put them on the side, and then they continued towards house number 4. So in the circle there, that's basically house number 3. That's the back entrance of house number 3, which faces towards house number 4. So 3 soldiers went out of that house, and 2 of them were killed right there, and another soldier was injured. And one of those soldiers was, 2 of the soldiers that were killed one of them is Amir Fisher, Hashem Yikom Damo, and Ben Borenstein. Ben Borenstein was Yona's company commander, or platoon commander, sorry. Well, after he was shot, he was able to radio in that I was hit. So Yona quickly, with the other medic, ran out into the to try to save him. So the next slide you can see here, this is the entrance of house number 4. So Ben Borenstein, he fell right near the circle there. So Yona went directly to Ben to try to save him, and the other soldier went inside the house to eliminate any potential risk they had there. So if there's terrorists or someone else that's in the house that wants to hurt them, so he just like cleared out the house. And while he was doing that, Yona started to drag Ben into the house to give him the medical attention he needed inside the house and outside of it. So while he was pulling him, terrorists started shooting at Yona, and he got hit by 13 bullets. So he fell on the ground after that, and then after that in the hospital, he told me about what happened, and in his words, he said, "Ehzakti et Ben," I held on to Ben, "Ve'ergashti et hakadurim nichnasim bi," and I felt the bullets go through me. And then he fell on the ground after. He didn't stop after the first or second bullet. He continued to pulling him. And I was like, ask him, like, why didn't you let go and just, the first bullets? Like, he said, I couldn't leave him there. What do you mean? Maybe I can't. So he fell to the ground right near him, and then he started to crawl inside the house. He went inside the house, and then him being a medic, he started to taking care of himself. There was another soldier that was injured as well. So he also crawled inside the house, and the other medic was basically on one medic for 2 injured soldiers. So Yona noticed that, so he started to put on himself tourniquets on both legs, a tourniquet on his arm, and he also mentioned that he thinks he got a bullet in his head. But then the medic looks at him, he's like, I don't see any blood, so maybe you're just shocked or something. It's like, Yona was like, no, I think there was a bullet, I think it was hit in my head. It's like, okay. I mean, I don't see any blood, so there's nothing I can do about it. So they continued some medical treatment there. And then in that house, in the safe room, there was a family, Mishpachat Eilon family, which was still in contact until today. And Yona decided to crawl and sit at the entrance of the safe room just in case something happens. He's the last line of defense. So he's still thinking about trying to save that family in case something happens. So I didn't mention it, but Yona loved to eat, and he decided to pull out a banana and just eat a banana during that time, and he was all like banged up. But it was just like the girl that was there in the house, she saw it. It was like, how can he be eating in this situation? And that was just such a Yona typical story. Like, yeah, I'm hungry now, I need to eat something. And this is just a picture. This is, if you could see at the edge there of the house, on the left side, that's where the Shabak personnel was. So really close to where they were. And when we went there after he passed away, I was shocked by how close everything was. It was a few meters from each house. And they were so disadvantaged going into Kfar Aza and trying to save civilians. And the fact that they were able to even save civilians in this horrific and chaotic time is just amazing for me. So they wanted to evacuate Yona, so they brought in the armed vehicles into the into the Kfar Aza, into the kibbutz. They're just like between houses. They were driving, and they were able to load him up to the vehicle and get him out of Kfar Aza. And also right side of Kfar Aza, there was a small gas station, and then they switched him over to a Hummer. It's like a small open Hummer, and Yona was on a stretcher, and sometimes for like fast evacuation, they put the stretcher on the hood of the car. It's something that's meant to it. So that's how they wanted to evacuate Yona. So they started driving like that, and he was still conscious at that point, and he told me that was one of the scariest things he's ever experienced, even after being shot 13 times. So they start driving south, and they suddenly get into an ambush. Terrorists started shooting at the vehicle. So quickly, the driver took him off the hood, put him behind a bus stop that was there, and from there he was able to. Someone else from his unit came with a closed vehicle, able to get him to a different point, and there he was helicoptered into Sheba Tel Shomer. So just like timing-wise, so they entered Kfar Aza around 10:30. He was injured at 11:15, and he got to Sheba Hospital at 3:30 in the afternoon. So all of that time, he was with tourniquets on, 5 tourniquets on his body. Very, I just put on one, just like as practice in the army, and it's very painful. So he had 5. And he stayed conscious until he got to the hospital. So basically, he tried to save himself. These are Yona's friends, Amir Fisher and Ben Borenstein, Hashem Yikom Damam. They were killed there. So I always love mentioning them during the lecture. All right. So Yona was right. He did have a bullet in his head. And you can see on the left side, there's a little shiny spot on his forehead, and that's where the bullet was. But the bullet basically entered from his cheek and just was stopped on his skull. So from the picture, it's inside his brain, but it's not that bad how it looks. But it's just like this picture, it was centimeters from him just losing his life there. So we're just grateful he was able to come alive get to the hospital alive, and us having the time with him after that. Just go back one, and then just like there's also bullets there. So one bullet was pulled out, that's from his head, and the other bullet was from his lower back. He was also later on, another bullet was extracted from him from his right arm. So he had a few souvenirs from that, and he was really planning to on Hanukkah to create some sort of Chanukiah, a menorah from those bullets. So we'll hopefully next Hanukkah, that's going to be the goal for us to try to create something. So this is another picture. It means a lot to me. So that's Yona's magazine from his gun. And you can see there's a hole in it, and there was a bullet shot at that magazine. And I like to think that if this magazine, if the bullet would have not hit the magazine and hit Yona, that would have probably changed the outcome of the whole event on October 7th. So I like to think about it that this is what saved Yona life. But so that's the story of how we got to the hospital. There's also a story about how we found Yona. So a lot of chaos during that day. And Yona obviously wasn't answering our texts or messages. But we woke up in Skokie. My parents, we were about to go to shul, and then because my Zaidi was in the hospital, my father left his phone on. And right before we went to shul, he looked at his phone and he got a message from his sister saying that everything's okay with Zaidi, and we send prayers for what's going on to Israel. And that's how we found out what was going on in Israel. So that's 8 o'clock. That's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Israel. So well after Yona was injured. Obviously, my parents come down. It's like, there's a war in Israel. Get a hold of Yona. What's going on? He's not answering. A lot of stress throughout the house, throughout the whole day, and we were trying to find him and try to locate him. So only at Sunday morning Chicago time, which is Sunday afternoon in Israel, my sisters find out from a friend that there might be soldiers from Duvdevan who were helicoptered into Sheba Tel Shomer Hospital. So my sisters, I don't know how or why, they decided just to go and look for him at the hospital. And because it was so much chaos at the hospital, even that they were able to go into the ICU and look for him there. And thank God nothing happened to his face. And they were able to go bed by bed until they found him right there. So it's very, very hard scene for my sister just to suddenly see him in that situation in the hospital in induced coma. So that's how we found him. But even behind the scenes of that, Yona was considered a halal. Halal is a fallen soldier. He by accident identified him at the hospital in Beersheba. And the reason that we weren't notified that Yona was injured is because they were waiting to tell us that he passed away, that he died that day. So Noah's father works in the Ministry of Defense, and on October 7th, he was assigned the task to coordinate funerals. And obviously, he gets the task to coordinate Yona's funeral. And in that moment, he knew that my parents are in the States, and we need to notify them as soon as possible. I wanted to come to Israel to join my platoon up north. And he was really stressed out of it that I would be in Israel and someone would come and take my parents, that Yona passed away or actually died, and he was really stressed out of it. So they started to urge the process of identifying and them and the army coming to tell us that he died that day. So they actually contacted one of the consuls in Chicago. Actually, yesterday at NJM, he was there, so it was kind of like, it was the first time I met him. So it was very, very emotional to see him then, and not at our doorstep on October 8th. So he got the task to come and tell us, and on the way, he got dressed. He left his house, and exactly at the same time, we found Yona, and then Noah called her father and said, Yona was injured. And he was like, what do you mean injured? He just hung up on her. And then he quickly called my sister. And then my sister just found my brother, who was just injured. And suddenly Noah's father's calling her. She didn't understand what's going on. And then he started to ask her, are you with Yona? Is Yona with you? Is he alive? Is he okay? And she said, yes, I'm with Yona. It's 100%. Then he asked, are you sure 100% that's Yona? And she said, yes, that's 100% Yona. So he hung up the phone on that. They contacted the consul that was on her way to the house to tell us that Yona passed away. And yesterday he said to us, they called him and it said, wait a second. There's something might have changed. A couple of minutes later, they call him and he said, there's good news. He's alive. And he was so happy, he was so relieved that he didn't have to go through this, and just for the soldier was alive. He suddenly came out of the death, Tchiat HaMetim. So again, we're just very grateful and that didn't happen, and we were able to spend a lot of time with Yona after that. This is the list that Yona made of the fallen soldiers, and he's there, and his friend is also marked there, Emil Fischer. Yona was the only soldier that made it off of that list, and we believe also that it was decided by Hashem then that he's going to pass away, but he granted him a few extra days to spend time with us. So we're, again, very grateful for those amazing days that we had with him, and that I'll share throughout the next few minutes in the presentation how it was to spend that time. Before we start that, I want to share a short video of Yona from the Instagram account that was made after he passed away. So. Yeah, this video doesn't get any easier. So when Yona was a little bit more stable, I decided I just had to join my platoon up north and just do my part of just being in the reserves and being the IDF as part of the paratroopers brigade. So I was fortunate to have the opportunity to go up north and spend time with my platoon and help them with the guard duties in Lebanon. And the picture in the middle is the first time after I came back. I spent there 6 weeks since October 7th. I was there, so that's just like the first picture of when I came back. And since then, I went back 7 times to Israel to spend time with the family, and in total, I was there for almost 7 months. The 417 days. Yona was there, so I went back and forth just to be with the family. So what makes Yona Yona? No one sane enough can decide to go into the gunfire and save his friends, or someone's shooting at you, go out of a protected place and go try to save other people. No one, you don't think about it. It's not, you can't decide. No one's going to say yes to it. Like if you're going to ask someone, no, everyone's going to say no. Of course not. But for Yona, it was no decision to be made. It was just the way who he was, who Yona was throughout the years. It was just his personality. He always helped his friends. His friends were important for him. All the people surrounding him were very important. for him. So at that period of time when Yona decided to go out and save his friends, there was no decision to be made. It's just an instinct to his personality. And I think that's what makes Yona Yona. And in the next few minutes, I'll share some of those values that help Yona become what he is, and what he became. So the first value is family. Yona was the youngest of 6, and he valued family a lot. Even though he was the youngest, he was the glue to everyone. He brought everyone together, and him being the youngest one, always he wanted us to come back, but he was alone with my parents a lot, so we always came. And the few years before we moved to Skokie, we lived next to our parents, so he would call me on a random Tuesday afternoon and say like, hey, do you want to go to Water Spring? Do you want to get some lunch? So like, Yona, I need to work. I'm sorry. He was much younger. He was in high school. He had some time. I was working, but I rarely said no to that because I couldn't say no to him ever. So we got to spend a lot of time together, being close, being close. As just a picture of our family at our house in Modin. Yeah. So this is a picture of my sister's son's Brit at the hospital. She gave birth in January. And 2 days before this event, Yona had a horrific disarticulation of his right leg. There was an artery that exploded. He had a very serious bleed. He was rushed into the operating room, and they had to disarticulate his right leg. And this is 2 days after that, and we woke him up, and 2 days passed, and he insisted for that event to wear a button shirt. He wanted to feel normal just for that event. So this picture is very special. It's like about his personality. These small things always meant a lot to Yona. So that's just like a special picture, and we're just grateful he was able to participate in that event, even though it's at a hospital, even though he was in a hospital bed. We still appreciate it. And the siblings, we always tried to be there as much as we could. And obviously we all have our own lives as well, but we had shifts. Me being here, I couldn't take part of the shifts, so my siblings, they did the shifts. So each of them had a day they came to the hospital, and luckily we were a lot, so we were able to coordinate it. And I tried to come every 6 weeks for a few weeks to be there. And when I came, I was only there with Yona. So between like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, depends on how much Noah was okay with I leaving. She never said no, but I always felt bad to leave her with the girls. Yeah, so this is a short video of one of the trips. I was fortunate enough to take Ella, our oldest daughter, to go and be with Yona. So this is just a short video of them singing together. Even though he was in the ICU, it was very important for him to be the cool uncle. He was the only sibling who wasn't married, And even then, we would call him on WhatsApp video. He would always do faces to our daughters, and just trying to be himself. And that's what Yona really was. He was, even though he was in the ICU and had very serious injuries, he still stayed him safe. Same stupid jokes, same face expressions. Even still stayed the cool uncle that he was. So that's just a lot walking him, I think, probably into an operation that he had to do or some procedure. And then the right side is Ella with her cousin, Maya, with Yona, just outside of the ICU, and trying to spend time with him. It was very important for us to try to bring Yona home. It was a very big milestone for us, and Sheba Hospital were nice enough to help us coordinate this. They had to bring in a doctor and a nurse to come and spend the evening at home. They bought a special bed, an ICU bed to be at home. He got dressed up. He got a nice shirt, and we all came home for an evening. We had dinner together at home as a family, and then his friends came. To spend time with him as well. It was just a few hours, but it was so special. But also realized he was still so far from it. But still, the fact that we were able to bring him home was a big milestone for us in a very special moment. And again, we're just very grateful we had the opportunity to do it. Yona didn't like to waste time, even though he was in the ICU. So he wanted to do something. We tried to think of something meaningful to do together as a family. So we decided to do an evening of TED Talks. So each of one of us, of the siblings, and my parents had to come up with a topic to speak about. So we did that in Yona's room in the ICU. So that's me speaking, and Noah joined in from Zoom and speaking about her topic. It was just like a great evening. We brought in food, obviously, and it was just like a great time. Friendship. Yona has a very special group of friends. He has friends from Modi'in, from growing up since he was like 5 years old, friends from Mechina, the year and a half before the army, and the friends from the army. And they all really stood by Yona throughout the whole time. They didn't leave him for a second. So here are just like a few pictures of Yona with his friends at the ICU, and also before the time, just having a good time. And the right side, on the right bottom, there's a picture of Yona, younger, with his good friend Eitan Oster, who was killed in action in Lebanon as well. So part of Yona's reality is all of his friends were fighting in Gaza and in Lebanon, and waking up from coma and hearing about another friend that was killed, another friend that was killed. So not only he had to deal with his own pain, he had to deal with his friends being killed. And that was a challenge that he was able to overcome during the time in the ICU. Like I said, Yona had a lot of friends, and a lot of friends that claimed that they were Yona's best friend. Yona gave them that feeling that they were the best friends. So naturally that caused Yona to be a best man a lot of times for his friends' weddings. And he did it a few times before he was injured, but after he was injured, and one of his friends came and told him that he was getting married, I was like, I won't have to be the best man. I'm going to be here. So he was happy about that. So there's like even those small things that made a difference for Yona. He was looking at the bright side, even though it was like a horrific situation, he was trying to make the best of it. So usually a few of his friends got married during the time he was in the ICU. They tried to come the day of the wedding just to see Yona and just be inspired by him, really. So this is Yona's friends dancing just before his wedding. They came. This is one of Yona's best friends that was getting married. So. He was always always so happy throughout the whole time. Um, these are Yona had a lot of visitors, politicians, and also musicians. So these are just like a few of the people, politicians or the VIPs that came to visit Yona. So it's President Herzog and his wife, Bibi Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, Avram Fried, an Israeli comedian named Asi Cohen. He came dressed up as his act. Leo Sushard, he's a mentalist. Uh, um, Herzi Halevi is chief of staff, former chief of staff now, and Naftali Bennett, the former prime minister, and they all came a few times during the time Yona was in the ICU. Like I said, in addition to that, Yona loved music. He played guitar during the time he was there. He played piano and an organ in the time he was in ICU. And Yona loved, he has this very special Spotify playlist. That was his thing. He would create playlists. So any playlist you can think about before Shabbat, working out, chill, whatever you can think, there was a playlist, and it was really, really great playlist. And we were fortunate enough for that Yona had a lot of famous singers and artists come and play in Yona's room. So here's a short clip of Yona's private performances. A really great performances. Yona really loved when they came, and often the artists would try to come again because they had such a good time with him, and just the interaction with Yona was very special with them. And also special for us. We would fight our siblings, which days, which artists would come. We'd try to organize ourselves to meet these artists as well and experience it with Yona. It was very special for us. So like I said, Yona was a combat medic, and it was very important for him to save lives. This is pictures with Amir Fischer on the left side and Ben Borenstein on the right side, and giving him the pin of succeeding the training of Duvdevan unit. A very special moment, and you see the smile on Yona's face. Last Yom HaZikaron, Yona wrote a letter on behind this picture, the picture you see on the right side. He wrote to Ben's parents a short letter, and it's in Hebrew, so I'll just read it in the translation in Hebrew, from Hebrew. To the dear and loving Bernstein family, thank you for the privilege of being Ben's soldier. I wish that you will not know any more pain or suffering, and that you will have good and happy times. Yona Brief. Both Amir and Ben had very long-time girlfriends, and every time they would come, they would thank Yona for basically having them the opportunity to have a grave, have a body. It's not. It's very special for them to have that place to go. Not everyone has that with the hostages, and they were very grateful for Yona. And the only reaction Yona would say to them when they say that's just like, "I'm sorry, I couldn't save them." Then that was just. That's who Yona was. He felt bad. He couldn't do it, but there was nothing he could do. In this short video, one of Yona's friends is dedicating a tunnel explosion in Gaza in memory of Yona. In addition to that, there was also some mortars, bombs, and just like writings in Gaza, so sending like strength to Yona throughout the time he was in the ICU. So here's the video. Purposeful and steadfast. Yona was very determined. He, like I said, mentioned a few times, he didn't waste time. Yona was very important to him that he utilizes his time to its fullest. Even before he was in ICU, an hour before Shabbat, he would go on a 10K run just to prepare, just to try to do something before Shabbat starts. So he would go on a run, come back, take a shower, drink coffee, and then go to shul. And the same thing in the ICU. Every morning he would wake up, have a cup of coffee, a little cookie or some chocolate. He would daven and eat breakfast after that, and then he would work out. If it's physical therapy, weights, whatever he needed to do to get out of the ICU, and that was his mission. I always ask him, "What do you want? What do you need?" Just need to get out. Just need to start my rehab, start my life, get my life back, and just be normal again. He was in very clear understanding of his situation, and he was with peace at it. But he just wanted his life back. He just wanted to start his new life He just wanted to get there so badly. So this is a short video of him lifting weights in the ICU. He never gave up. He was fighting until the end. This is another short video of Chili Trooper, a member Knesset Chili Trooper, who was very helpful. He came to visit a lot of times, Yona, and just like from a logistical standpoint and an emotional support, he was very helpful. And a lot of politicians come and say words and don't stand behind them. So he was one of them that kept his promise, and he came once a week to Yona, oftentimes with his wife, just to visit and just to be with Yona. No cameras, no nothing, just to be. So this is a short video of him talking about Yona at the Knesset in Jerusalem. Yeah, emunah, faith, was very important for Yona. His faith, his emunah in Hashem was a very part of Yona before and even in the ICU was very important for Yona. Put on tefillin, daven every day, do Kabbalot Shabbat, sing songs, try to go to davening if he could, take him out with the bed. It was very, very important for him to be part of that and not just be normal, just be his normal, do whatever he did before, but just from the ICU. So again, a short clip of Yona lighting candles of Hanukkah right outside of the ICU. Like I said, it was very important to him to put on tefillin, even though he was in the ICU. And sometimes I had to help him with all the wires, and I felt like Chabad, helping him put on tefillin. But I just want to tell a short story about Yona and his tefillin. So, like I mentioned before, Yona had a horrific disarticulation of his right leg. An artery exploded. He was rushed into the operating room. That was like 6 a.m. He was back in his room by probably like 12 o'clock. They woke him up slowly until he woke up. Like totally, it was like 5 o'clock. And we told him what happened. In order to save your life, we had to disarticulate your right leg. And we didn't know it back then, but it was a total different type of rehab when in his situation than what it was before. It was very critical for him, but probably Yona didn't understand. We didn't understand that, but he acknowledged it. He said, "Okay, I understand, but that's not gonna stop me, even though I'm this really bad situation. I was almost killed in the ICU that day, and they just saved his life in the room. And after that, he acknowledged it and came to peace with the situation. He looks at me and he asked me, what time is it now? And I said, it's 5 o'clock. And then he asked me, when is the shkia? When is the sunset? I was like, why are you asking me when is the sunset? He's like, it's like in a half an hour. It's like, okay, so I have a half an hour to put on tefillin. So even though he was really bad situation, what it was important for him now is to put on tefillin. And I think that's just who Yona was. He just wanted to be normal, just to get back his life. And he knew by doing this is just getting back into his routine as fast as possible and just doing the things that he likes to do, he wants to do. Just put on tefillin and just be like regular, like everyone. So it was very, very special moment for me. And the doctors who were in the room were just shocked by this question. They prepared for the worst, and they couldn't believe the questions that Yona asked. And then here are just a few projects we did throughout the 417 days Yona was on the ICU. So kind of like learning for Yona, and a lot of things that we were able to do. Blood donations. In addition to that, we also did a big Afrashat Chala operation around the world, in Israel, Australia, and also here. So this is a short video of women doing Afrashat Chala in Skokie. And then there's a few other pictures of women all around the world doing Afrashat Chala for Yona. Yeah, this video goes on and on, but we're kind of short on time. But really, we got so many, hundreds of pictures of women doing Afrashat Chala. And we showed the video. We showed the video to Yona, and he was like very embarrassed that everyone did this, but he didn't mind. He didn't mind. The people were trying to help in any way they could. Sometimes Hashem, God, says no. Obviously, this is not the outcome we wanted, but the journey we went through was a very special journey, and we're grateful for the journey we had with Yona. So I was fortunate enough. I flew into Israel on Sunday morning. I came. He was just awakened from another induced coma. He was in induced coma for 2 weeks. They just woke him up that morning, and I was able to spend a lot of good quality time with Yona Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We really had great days together. We spoke about a lot of things, about girlfriends in the future and where we're going to live, knowing that we're moving back in the summer to Israel. So he was helping me to try to decide on where to live, and just like having regular conversations. And then on Wednesday night, he suddenly felt a very harsh pain on his right side, which indicated the liver, which wasn't good in the first place after the injury, but really stopped working. And that they put him into this coma, and from there it was just downhill and just waiting. And we were so used to it because the doctors always said, okay, bring in everyone, it's not good. It's not a good situation. I don't know if you'll make it out of it. And they told it, the doctors told it to us 10 or 15 times throughout the whole time of the ICU. So like, we didn't take them seriously. So it's okay. I mean, he'll be able to pass it, and we'll continue. That's how Yona was, and the doctors also believed in him, but also well aware of the situation he was in. But he was able to overcome very critical situations in the past. One of the doctors also said he has an open check with God, with Hashem, just because of the times he saved him and kept Yona with us. So Monday was really kind of like they had a big conference with a lot of doctors all over the world who consulted with Yona. Even a doctor from Chicago, Dr. Granger, Northwestern. He was a specialist in liver. He was able to consult, and doctors from England, from Israel, all the top doctors, and they basically said there's nothing to do, and leave it to Yona. And we believe in Yona, and he was able to overcome it. But sometimes, like I said, sometimes God just says no, and we're just part of that journey. And he passed away Tuesday morning, surrounded with his best friends and family. And it was just very, very special for us to be with him, and for Yona. Yona was always giving his whole life. He always gave to his friends, gave to his family. And it was just a very special moment, I think, for Yona, just to experience the love throughout all the time he was in the ICU, the 417 days. He was surrounded nonstop by his family and friends. And I think for him to go out that way meant a lot. And we're just grateful we had that opportunity. You know, we didn't come up. We're very close to getting a knock on the door and saying that Yona died. And we didn't have that. And we were able to experience and be with Yona for another 417 days, which is very special, and just a good connection from it. Just a picture of our oldest daughter, Ella. We painted a picture for Yona on his grave. So that's just like a day after the funeral. Yona was special, and he always broke the records and anything he did. And these are just a few records that Yona broke during the time he was in the ICU. So he was twice a halal, twice a fallen soldier. He was hospitalized in 4 different hospitals for first injury and second injury. He was 8 times was applied a tourniquet, 13 bullets in his body, 350 units of blood, and 417 days in intensive care. And Echad Eloheinu, we still say thanks to Hashem for the opportunity we had with Yona. So we were looking for some saying to put on the bottom of Yona's matzeva, Yona's grave, and we came up with, being whoever knew my Zaidi, Rabbi Micha Brief, his thing was gematria. That was his thing. So we looked and we found this pasuk, which is the gematria of 417, which is the number of days he was in the ICU. So the pasuk is V'omar lach bedamayich chai. I said to you, through your blood you shall live. So even though it's hard, even though Yona was bleeding out and he had a hard time, we should live through his blood. We should continue on and living. And that's what we're doing now as a family. We are choosing life. We are choosing life. We're continuing on, even though it's hard sometimes. But doing these kind of events and other projects we're doing really means a lot to us, and we're just continuing. Okay, this is our situation. It's not going to change, and it's not the outcome we wanted, but we're going to build from this. We're going to get stronger, and choose life like Yona every time he did. He never said no to another operation. He never said no to another treatment or another workout. His answer was always yes, whatever it takes. That was his way he operated in the ICU, and that's the way we want to remember him and continue our lives as well. I want to share a few cute pictures of babies that were named after in name of Yona. So on the left side, that's actually one of my sister's best friends. She named her baby girl BJBE Yona. Be'er is a well, and Yona, and the two other babies. One is actually from England. Heard about this, the story, and just wanted to name their boy after Yona. And then the left side is another friend of a friend that heard about Yona, just wanted to continue his name. Yona, this is just a bunch of articles that were written about Yona throughout the time and after he passed away. Yona's story touched a lot of people, and therefore we're fortunate to have a lot of press and a lot of opportunities to tell Yona's stories worldwide. So we're just, happy we had that opportunity to tell Yona's story and to reach as many people as possible. And just a little story. Ella, our oldest one, she asked us, how is Yona so famous? She didn't understand so many people she sees. She can see on the news and newspapers, and she sees what's going on. She didn't understand. It's because it was Yona. Yona was so special. He touched a lot of people, so a lot of people wanted to know about him. So he was very meaningful to her as well. Now, like I said, we're trying to choose life, so this is just a few screenshots of a couple of projects that we're doing. There's a Sefer Torah in memory of Yona, so you can see my father writing the last letters. There's a Gmach, how do you say Gmach in English? Collection of good, if you need anything, you can come and rent it out for free, basically. A lot of good projects we're working on. We're working on bigger projects and smaller projects in memory of Yona. And now one of the projects is Sheba Hospital contacted us, and they want to dedicate a simulator for the ICU to help train the nurses and the doctors of the ICU to better train them. So this is just like a side project we're helping Sheba to do now in memory. There's a lot of other projects we're working on. Some are bigger, some are smaller. My mom just the other day just mentioned she couldn't sleep, so she thought about another project we can do, and she named it. It's going to be called Yona Kit. It's like a tourniquet, but just Yona Kit, and just in that kit will be a lot of in-sessional first aid bandages or whatever they need to save immediate lives. So that's just another project that we're working on, and there's bigger projects that we're working on as well. We created a nonprofit organization called Micha Brief 417, and we're slowly trying to work our way through bureaucracy and getting our feet under the water, and trying to create some sort of center of education and fitness and food, obviously. So that's all the three aspects that Yona loved. Trying to create some sort of center to do that, but that's further down the line. We just like to remember Yona and bring him to life for a few minutes, like I did tonight for myself, being able to speak about Yona for me is really, really important. It just brings him back for life. I can feel him a little bit when I speak about him. So for me, it was very special to be here tonight, and really appreciate everyone who came out. It really means a lot to myself, to Noah, my parents, my whole family. So again, really appreciate it that you all came out. And in the final slide that Noah's going to switch, there's a QR code to Sheba. If you're interested, feel free to donate. It's a really great hospital and really special doctors over there. And that's it. Again, thank you everyone for coming. We really, again, really appreciate it. Thank you. And if there's any questions, feel free to ask anything. Everything's okay.
I don't have a question. First of all, I've had plenty of dinners with your grandfather, Oliver Shalom, and Demetria. I just love sitting with him in Montreal. And I can tell you from 30-some years ago when he made Aliyah, whatever, from California, he was so proud, and how proud he was of his boys in the military serving our people.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead. Not yet, but I would be happy to. It's. She asked if I spoke to college students. I said no, but I would be happy to. I did speak at the high school in Skokie at Ida Crown, but I'll be happy to speak more. If you have any other opportunities that I could speak, I would love to. All right, so thank you everyone.